Hey, what's good, everybody? This your boy, Mr. Two Real Cuts. So for today's video, we're gonna be doing a drop fade. Primarily gonna be using Oster Octanes. Gonna put these detachable blades to work. So for our first blade, we got our 4-hour blade. Gonna make our ball line all the way around. Most people tend to use a trimmer blade, but in this case right here, I always found it's always better to use my detachable blades for the simple fact that it's a stronger clipper, I can cover more area, and I'm not putting so much wear and tear on my trimmers. Alright, for our next guideline, we're going to use the 0A, or some people call it an OA blade. So that's going to be our next guideline. We're going to go up I'll probably say maybe about half an inch to an inch all the way around, keeping that same flow right behind our 4-hour blade. So the method that we're going to be using is going to be what's called a skip blade technique, where we're going to be stacking our blades up to create a smoother blend transition to build our fade. All right, next up is going to be our 1.5. So we're going to take that 1.5, roughly about an inch, almost up to where you see the curvature of the head, right alongside that parietal ridge area. Like I said, still keeping that same flow. We're just going to follow right behind where we left off at with the OA blade. So far we've gotten the 4-hour, the OA, and then the 1.5. All of this is just so that way we can build our transition for our blend, all the way from the lower transition of the blend into the higher transition of the blend that's going to meet into that bulk area. One thing definitely about using detachable blades, it doesn't matter if it's Oster Octanes and the Super ZRs, or if you're old school like me, you first start off with a pair of 76s. Every barber needs to learn how to use detachable blades. I always felt like when you learn how to use these, it makes it a whole lot easier to even be able to use your adjustables. All right, so now we're gonna grab this 1A blade. So far, we've created our blend transition of where we're going to build our blend. So we got the 1A blade. So all we're going to start doing is start blending from top to bottom. So first I'm going to work out that line that we put in between the OA and the 1.5. So the key thing is to be able to work detachable blades. You got to know your blade order. You got to know the order in which they come. So the blade underneath the 1.5 is the 1A. So I'm just going to take that 1A, use the corner of my blades, and start flicking that wrist and start working out that bulk and that weight and start clearing out that area where I left off at with the 1.5 and start blending into it. I don't want to go all the way up to the line. I just want to blend into the 1.5. Here's another thing that people need to understand when using detachable blades. Because they work in sync with each other, you only use one blade at a time. So to be able to change the length of the hair you cut, you have to change the blades. So when you're blending with these, don't be so caught up on trying to pull the line out just so perfect. Sometimes it may come out perfectly. Sometimes there may be still maybe a little iridescent line there. It's cool. Don't worry about that. That's where the cleanup and the fine tuning towards the back end comes in handy when we use our adjustables. All right, so next up is the 1 blade. So where this is gonna come in is right underneath and blending into our 1A. Now, I mentioned that we were doing a skip blade technique, right? So the skip blade technique doesn't mean skipping over the blade above to blend. You blend into the last blade that you used. So my 1 has no business being anywhere near or where our 1.5 area was. I should be blending into our 1A area. So The key thing is whether you're blending with blades or guards, you got to make sure that your blades stay in a respectable area, so that way you're not creating more work for yourself and potentially maybe making another line that you have to worry about taking out. One thing I'll definitely say, let's talk about these Oster Octanes for a second. Now, I've been cutting for 20 years, and I've been using detachables my whole career. I think I probably almost had almost every clipper you could think of on God's green earth, within reason. But when it comes to detachables, especially if you're going the cordless route, I've had the BGRs, I've had the Supras, but these Octanes, man, these Octanes are unmatched. Yeah, they're a little bit on the pricey side, but the one thing definitely, like, hey, if you've been in this business long enough, investments will be made, and you'll definitely be happy with this clipper if you wouldn't got it. All right, so check it out. So now we've done the 1/2, 1A, 1, and then so now we're back down to the OA blade. So we originally had put that OA in down at the bottom. So usually, whatever blade you use to put that line in, under normal circumstances, it's gonna be the same one you gotta use to take it out. So that way we can finish that blend transition down from the 1/2 down to the OA from when we originally put that line in. So then everything below that is just our lower blades. All right, now we got the 3/0 blade, which sits right in between the OA and the 4/0 blade that we originally used to put our bald line in. So all we did was just worked our blades all the way down from the top, from our 1/2 all the way back down to our 3/0, down to the very bottom of the fade. All right, so far so good. So we're pretty much almost done blending everything down at the bottom, but we still got to work out this bulk at the top, which is what we're about to start knocking out now. So we got our 3.5. So our 3.5 is going to blend into the very top part of our blend. So our 3.5 is going to start removing a lot of that bulk. That's going to sit right up in that parietal ridge area. We're just going to work that all the way around. And for those who don't know, this is actually my very first instructional video, tutorial, all the above. I actually had a lot of my students down here in the Houston area. Shout out to Gulf Coast Barber College and Third Coast Barber College. My students have really been getting on me about doing a channel, doing videos, and I'm glad I did. And also, I did all of this editing on my own. So I gotta give a shout out to anybody. If you do video editing, video type, all of the above, like, hey man, this stuff is for real, man. This stuff is not easy and it's super tedious. So I got much respect for people who do video editing and stuff like that. All right, so now we got our 2 blade. So continuing on, we're going to be blending right into where we left off with our 3.5. So use the corner of the blade to help blend out that bulk, thin that bulk out a little bit more, so we continue on with our blend transition. Also be mindful of, anytime you're blending, it doesn't even matter whether if you're using detachable blades or if you're using your guards. If all you need is a small part of the head that has to be blended, that's all the blades you need. There are times where it's not necessary to have to put the whole blade in that area. If you're working with a small part of the head, work with that part of the blade, or just use the corners of it. Use those corners to be able to manipulate that blend the way you want. right, so now we're back down to our 1.5. So remember in the beginning, we originally put that line in at the parietal ridge area with the 1.5. Now we're gonna finish it off with the 1.5. If you notice, you see how I'm kind of lightly just tapping at it. I'm not really just running my blade through it. I'm really just using the corners of it, tapping through it and blending it in where I left off at with the 2. I just want to make sure that I'm not going up too high, not going into that 3.5 area. My 1.5 should have no business going nowhere above my 2. See, the way how it don't matter like what blade you use. When you're blending, you want to make sure that you blend into the last blade. Do not put your blade above it, because that's what creates lines. That's what creates more work. All right, so now we're going to start trying to get into some of our attention to detail, some of our cleanup, things of that nature. So we're going to do a little bit of clip over comb. So I got my tapered comb, and on the blade I have on there right now, I have my OA blade on there. And you'll also see me go for my OA and also use my 3-eye blade to do a little bit of this clip over comb. So if you hadn't done it yet, if you haven't learned the method of doing clip over comb, you really needed to get in touch with trying to do that. That clip over comb will save your life in some situations. Because there's sometimes where like, hey, maybe that blend didn't come out the way you want. That blade or that guard can't get in there the way you want. But the right comb and the right tool with that clip over comb, or sometimes maybe even your shears, sometimes it'll pull that blend out of there just right. All right, so we're gonna pick it out a little bit, start working on this top. And for this, we're gonna get into some of this freehand action. So on here right now, that OA blade is a great blade to trim with. Also, depending on, say, if I was working with a little bit more over curly, more coarse hair, I may have used the 3-eye. A lot of people will sometimes do freehanding, say with the adjustables, they may use their adjustables all the way closed. But say if you got this OA or this 3-eye, it'll get up in there. It'll get up in there really nice. Because also one thing with the OA blade, the reason why I say that is because it's still a close cutting blade, but it still has wide enough teeth on the comb blade or the steel blade to be able so the hair can pass through it. Because sometimes, say if you got a closer cutting blade like the 3-eye, the 4-eye, or maybe even the 5, sometimes, and if the hair is a little bit more coarser, sometimes you'll end up pushing more hair over than you will cutting. So that OA is really good for that. And you see also working a little bit of clip over comb. I switched up to the 3-eye blade so I can try to get into some of those little smaller areas with my taper comb. And then I'll continue on, freehand the top. So we're gonna trim the top down just a smidgen, because what we're also gonna be doing, we get ready to style it. We're gonna put a little bit of product in there. We're gonna sponge it. Well, not sponge it, but we're gonna curl it up. And the reason why I said not sponge it, because we're gonna use the curl racket, and you'll see what I mean by that when we get to it. All right, now, so check it out. So now we got these Gamma ergos, and if you hadn't had a chance to try these out, man, this is a great clipper, man. Matter of fact, the whole Gamma line has really impressed me. These right here, the ergos, I feel like, hey, and I try not to throw shade, but hey, these right here made me sell my cordless masters. It's a great tool. It's like the first first cordless clipper with a magnetic motor in it. And they cut extremely smooth, especially if you zero gap these. So what I'm doing now, I'm going with these, kind of getting between my blend, hit some of these little smaller, tighter areas that sometimes where, hey, maybe my blades couldn't get into. Do a little bit of fine tuning in that lower transitional area of my blend, a little bit of clip over comb. And as you see, they clean it up real nice. So now we're gonna get into, right before I start doing the edge up, man, let me tell y'all something about this frozen stiff. If y'all haven't got on this yet, so especially, with us as barbers, a lot of people like to use holding sprays for the edge up to either create that ash line or to be able to get that hair to hold a little bit better to make the edge up easier. Let me tell you something. I've tried so many different holding sprays, spritz, all kinds of stuff like that. But this frozen stiff is a beast. I've tried them all. You can get that frozen stiff for about like $8-9 at Sally's. All right, y'all. So we'll try to get this haircut finished up. Go and start lining them up. So if you haven't had a chance to try the Gamma Evos, man, you need to go try these out. So I've had virtually almost every kind of trimmer and clipper you could think of that probably came out in the past 5-10 years, from especially everything cordless, from the cordless TI liner, detailers, all the Babylus's, you name it, I've bought it. But the Gamma Evos or Stylecraft Evos, which either one, man, this is a great trimmer, man. The Evos also, one thing that Gamma has done is they give you options. So like the Evos, they come with a standard like steel blade, a steel cutting blade. They come with a ceramic cutting blade, and they come with what they call their their black carbon, black diamond blade. That's the one you want. Even if you have the hitters, like I have the absolute hitters also. So if you got the hitters or the Evos, that's the blade you want to put on there. I'm not a big fan of ceramic, but the ceramic blade that comes with these is the first one I've actually tried where the ceramic blade actually hits pretty good. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of ceramic, but the black carbon blade that they come with, yeah, it's a monster. I'll tell you another thing about all the Gamma products, especially at least all the clippers. They all got their own charging dock. They all have like a premium feel, especially what they've also done with, like I said earlier, like you get options. So especially when it comes to customizing them, like right now, I went all black with mine. But they come with all different kind of lids, different cases where you can change the color on them, so on and so forth. Another thing I like is, even if, say, if you're going to take these on the road with you, the Evos and the hitters and also the Alphas, they have where you can use a charging stand, or you can use the USB. It has a USB Type A or USB Type C charger. So that way, like, hey, if you don't have to take the charger stand with you, so say if they go dead on you, okay, you can still plug them up and use them. And as you can see, I switched over to the hitters. These are the hitters with the carbon black blade, just like I have on the Evos. And I also have the skeleton attachment. These, I think the only flaw for these for me is that they are a smaller trimmer compared to the Evos. So if you have bigger hands like me, they may feel small, but if you put the skeleton attachment on there, it kind of helps. It kind of helps a little bit ergonomically wise. And before y'all say anything, no, I am not sponsored by Gamma. They are not paying me, nothing like that. I'm kind of using this as also like a clipper review, because I'm also going to be doing that also with this channel also, alongside with tutorials, clipper reviews, things of that nature. All right, so now switching over to the Alphas. Now here's the thing. The Ergos are the ones that's been getting more play as far as, I think, marketing wise, but I feel like the Alphas are probably Gamma's best kept secret because of how much you can mod them. Like, you could put a variety of different cutting blades, steel blades on there. Like, I know for a fact, like the Babbler's blades will fit on there. I believe the wall blades, I think maybe even like the fast feed blades might even fit on there, because it has that bracket on there where it'll fit two different types of screws. So I like to use these for like fine tuning, things of that nature, general purpose blending, all that good stuff. All right, so now we're getting to a little bit of this shear work. My shears of choice, I have my 7-inch Hattori Hanzo shears, double swivel thumb grip. Some people think that double swivel thumb grip on shears is gimmicky, but there is a legitimate reason for it, especially ergonomically. For me, it helps me be able to keep my elbow down. I don't have to worry about hyperextending my arm to be able to make my cuts when I'm doing shear over comb, palm to shear, anything like that. I mean, it's a good quality tool. I've been using Hanzos for about a good 5-6 years now. Good for detail work. These are my 7-inch shears. I use these pretty much all purpose, wet cuts, dry cuts, the whole 9 yards. Alright, so about to get into this razor work, but before I run this razor, so I've been using this product probably for the past couple of weeks now, called I Love Being a Barber. And it's pretty much a shave spray. It's got all natural oils in it. It gives a good clean glide to your razor. I've been liking it. I've been digging it, man. The product line's pretty dope. It's got a shaving spray, a aftershave, and they also have a beard wash also. And you can see, like, it's just making that blade glide real nice. Make sure, say, when you're doing your razor work, stretch that skin, all that good stuff like that. Get a nice clean pull of that skin, so that way you don't have to worry about cutting your client, all that stuff like that. Like your razor, I don't care how good your trimmers are, your razor is always going to be your final detail, man. That's your signature tool, man. That's us as barbers. There should not be one haircut that you do that razor is not going to touch. All right, so I gotta give a shout out to my boy Don, aka Mr. Clipper Connect, for hooking me up with this 5-in-1 spray and leave-in conditioner. This stuff is great, especially for curly hair, but it's good for all scalps, to help moisturize the scalp, all that good stuff like that. Then I'm gonna use this Cantu, the styling lotion, so I can start curling his hair up, trying to start getting that curly look to form. Then I'm gonna use the racket. So the reason why I said earlier I don't use the sponge, I prefer the racket, so that way I can sanitize it, clean it, The sponge is more so for personal use. So I wouldn't suggest you use the sponge on multiple clients. I suggest find and get a racket. All right, y'all. So we pretty much at the end of the cut right here. I just had to just bang out these last few little finishing touches. Man, shout out to everybody, man, who stuck with me, man, towards the end of this video. Like I said, this was my first one. I definitely got more content coming soon. Like I said, self-edited, did everything myself, man. Shout out to all my supporters, man. Definitely hit me up on the gram at 2 Real Cuts. You follow me, I follow back. I hope I bless somebody's game today. Shout out to Gulf Coast and Third Coast Barber College. Shout out to all my students who encouraged me to go ahead and put this content out. Like I said, I hope I bless y'all game. Holla at your boy.